So that clip you just saw was just a humorous take on my music marketing for the last 20 plus years. This video will actually go back into the 90s as well. This isn't so much a what to do or what not to do necessarily. This is for fans of mine, to get kind of more of a behind the scenes look at how I've marketed my music and the experiences that I've had because of it. And if you are a musician looking for marketing tips, you might find some in here, but mostly, this might just give you some ideas. In general, I haven't found a way to make music profitable, so don't take it too much as a how-to guide, how to make a living off of music kind of thing. But there are some things that have worked for me and many things that have not. So if you are looking for tips, check the table of contents, and especially at the end, you'll see kind of, with the social media stuff, what I do advertising wise, what works and what doesn't. But in this video, it's really just a comprehensive overview of the marketing that I've done for the last 30 years. And ever since I started rapping in 1992, I've had a huge passion for music, and I knew that I wanted to make it my career. I knew that, I just loved doing it all the time. And I was serious enough about it that even at the age of 14, I recorded a cassette just on a old boombox type thing. That terrible sound recording, but I recorded the cassette as a demo, sent that to a talent agent as well as the radio station 102 Jams in Orlando, and when I lived there, which is where I learned how to rap. And I sent that cassette in, and I went to follow up with the radio station. I called them up, and I was gonna ask them to play the song, and I didn't realize they were in the middle of one of their segments called Bump It or Dump It, where obviously, bump it is, yes, I want to hear that song more, and dump it is, I never want to hear the song again. And I wasn't listening to the radio station at that exact moment, so I didn't hear the song that they wanted to bump or dump. So I paused for a second, and then I just said, bump it. My sister made fun of me for a while for the way I said bump it, because it wasn't exactly confident. I was 13 or 14 and it sounded like I was, 40 or something. But I thought even at the time that, if people are making music, if they're putting the effort to make the music and send it out to the radio station, they deserve a chance to be heard. So even at that time, that's kind of how I felt about things. The talent agent that I sent the cassette to said word for word, rap it's on its way out, and you should do something that's you. That's back in 93. Either at the peak or the beginning of the peak of hip hop, that kind of, it's maybe dipped down at one point and then came back up, but it's been, much stronger ever since in terms of popularity. So obviously she kind of miscalled that one. And I definitely feel like rap is me. But, my music, of course, has expanded beyond just rapping. I do have some songs where I just sing. I even have an album where I just played the piano because one of my fans asked me to do so after he saw me kind of improvising on a piano. So I released my first album in 1996. I recorded it in 96, released it in January of 1997, 8 days before my 18th birthday. I tried to open a business checking account. They wouldn't let me do it because I wasn't 18 yet. I never ended up opening a business checking account. I didn't need it for it, but I thought that was one of those little tidbits that is kind of interesting. But my first website I actually created September 1st, 1996, and I don't have the date memorized. It's because I was looking at my old website. It is archived on Cities because it was a Geocities website. For those of you who aren't familiar with Geocities, it was a free website community where you could make your basic website and people could come see it. And they had addresses like geocities.org/sunsetpark/1317. And then your neighbor would be Sunset Park/1318. So that's how they had that kind of community idea in there. You also had like web rings where people could just click on the web ring and you'd go from my Mission Man site, my Wayfire Record site, to a random, maybe another music site. Maybe it was somebody had some other kind of interest like art, or maybe somebody was, doing any other random thing you could think of. They had that site in there. So web rings were a way to just kind of go down a rabbit hole as early as the mid 90s, because that was 1996 when I made that site. And in 98 and 99, I had Underground Music Monthly, which you can kind of see still on that archived site. I'll put the archive site in the description of this YouTube video, as well as if you're reading this on the blog, you will see the link at the very bottom of the blog as well if you want to check out what my website looked like in 1996. So sorry, my audio cut out there. What I was saying was that in 1998 and 1999, I was running Underground Music Monthly, which was an online magazine where I reviewed albums and tried to keep up with the latest in the music industry at the time. I reviewed CDBaby in 1998 when it first launched, I think within 3 months of its launch, and signed up with my music there so people could buy my music online through them instead of buying directly through my website like it was originally set up to. They had, they kept your CD physically in their warehouse and, kept a percentage for themselves and sent it off. And at the time it was just this novel idea, some brand new concept for independent musicians to be able to do this, to get on a somewhat level playing field with major label artists. And I've been with CDBaby ever since. So I'm actually one of the original artists, I guess. I've been there for 25 years, released 14 studio albums and a live album through them, and I absolutely love them. I hired some of my friends to make artwork and review albums for the e-zine. I actually interacted via email with Lupus from Bloodhound Gang at one point because he emailed me to compliment me on my website, which is awesome. So we exchanged a few emails, and I don't remember all the details of those emails, but it's just one of those neat things early on that, you got to connect with musicians, because I was doing this this magazine online, shortened to e-zines at the time. Nobody calls them e-zines anymore, but that was a thing then. The 2003 tour, I sent out 200 demos and booked 9 shows out of those demos. Those demos cost me about $5 a piece to put together, because you had the full CD, I had my full album in there. I had press kit, photos, stickers, and contact information, all that stuff in there. And you had to physically mail them. And the way that booking agents worked at the time was they had a limited window. Sometimes it was 3 days a week. Sometimes it was 4. There was one that I had to interact with that only had 1 day per week for 2 hours, where you had to call them, and they did all their booking in that 2-hour period. If they were on the phone with another band, you had to just keep calling until you got a hold of them. If you did not get a hold of them in that 2-hour period, you had to wait until the next week. Obviously, that was a little bit of a logistical challenge, as opposed to now where you're just emailing and hearing back. But, so I spent probably $1,000 sending out those demos, booked the 9 shows. This is where it's huge as to how you look at things. You can either look at the 95% rejection rate that I got, or the 4.5% acceptance rate. And I focus on the 4.5% acceptance rate, because you're going to get a lot more no's in the music industry than you're going to get yeses. And I think that's true for any creative endeavor, certainly, and even for entrepreneurs in general. You're going to have a high rejection rate. So you just, I've learned to be just very grateful for the percentage of people that do accept me. And I'm very grateful for all 9 venues that actually booked me during that tour. So the single most important aspect of touring in terms of success was the local band. If the local band had a strong following and did what they could to market their shows and brought out a lot of people, obviously that created a great show. And if the local band didn't have much of a following, or they didn't promote it very well, then I played for an empty room, but I still got to be out there touring. And one of those successful shows was in Jacksonville. The local band had a huge following. That particular show, they did keep track of who was there to see whom. And the headliner, I think, had like 100 people come out to see them, and I had about 4. But even with that, they gave me 20% of the door receipt, because they knew I was touring, and they gave 20% to the touring bands to make sure that the touring bands could get on to their next show. So that was very generous of them, and I'm very thankful for that. Also, for that Jacksonville show, the timing became so tight, because a friend of mine was with me, and he had a show in Cincinnati the next day where he was playing sax with a DJ, and that show was like a noon show. And so we left Jacksonville after the show at 11 p.m., got back to Cincinnati around 12:15. So he was about 15 minutes late for his set, but he was able to play the last half hour, 45 minutes on the saxophone while that DJ was spinning. And then the day after that, I had a show in Pittsburgh. If you're not familiar with Jacksonville to Cincinnati, it is about a 12-hour drive, and then Cincinnati to Pittsburgh is about 6. So a whole lot of driving involved in that, but a whole lot of incredible memories and wonderful experience. I would do it again if I were still that same age. Now, there's no way I'm leaving 11 o'clock at night from Jacksonville and driving home. I need to sleep in a bed and have a shower. At the time, I was fine sleeping in a car or crashing on a friend's couch or on a friend's floor, or I was okay not showering for a few days in a row on the road. If you are still okay with not showering sleeping in vans and stuff, but still want to shower, a cheap way to do it is to get a monthly membership to a gym, spend 20 or 30 bucks a month, and have unlimited access to their showers. Just a little tip if you're up for that kind of thing. But during some of those tours, I would sleep. I started sleeping at rest areas at first, but I got accosted one night, propositioned in the parking lot. I won't go into any more detail than that, but it made me not want to sleep at rest area parking lots anymore. That was actually the 2006 tour where that happened. So I started sleeping in Walmart parking lots for a while when I was touring, because they were set up for overnight RVs, and most Walmarts were 24 hours. So if I had to go in the middle of the night to get a snack or use the restroom, I could do that. And so it's a pretty good solution at that time for touring. Just one of those things of, tour life. But for me promoting the shows from the road, I would send off flyers, first of all, to the venues. Usually they wanted the 8.5 by 11, and I could just, do a stack of 5 to 10 flyers, put it in a hard envelope that was 9 by 12, so it would fit in there and not bend. One of them wanted 11 by 17 posters, so I bought a poster tube and wrapped it inside there so that I could unroll and they could put it up on the wall. I would also contact local newspapers like Folio Weekly in Jacksonville or City Beat in Cincinnati. They were music specific papers that would review CDs. They would review my CD before the show. They would put my show in the show listings in their calendar. And I don't know how many people actually came out because of those listings, but that was one of the main marketing ways, one of the main ways at the time to market music for a touring band. And those, if they're still in business, is still a great way to market a show. You definitely definitely would contact those newspapers if I'm playing in those areas. But there aren't as many around now. For playing for a Cure, which I did in 2004, I had a special show for the anniversary when my mom passed away, 10 years after she passed away, and all the money was going to the American Cancer Society. So I put a ton into it. I had 7 bands. I think I spent about $1,000 running. I think I ran a newspaper ad in the Dayton City paper as well as the Cincinnati Enquirer. I burned a bunch of CDs. I handed them out, put flyers up all over Cincinnati. I contacted not only City Beat, but the Dayton City paper, Oxford Press, and I think the Cincinnati Enquirer. And for a follow-up show, I contacted a local TV station in Northern Kentucky, and one of the bands that was playing for that following show was coming up from Tennessee, from Nashville. And so I gave them gas money to come up to be on the show, local TV show, to promote that particular performance. But those are unique. I also had a radio station giveaway for playing for a Cure where they gave away 2 tickets on the air. But those were unique situations. Those were definitely more aggressive and more what a major label might do because they have more of the connections. As an independent artist, it was a little outside of my comfort zone to do that, but I did it because it was such an important show to me. And from 1999 to 2008, there was this weird spot where music piracy was absolutely huge because Napster launched in June of 1999. Spotify didn't launch until August or October or something of 2008. So there was a 9+ year period where there was no solution to piracy. MySpace came out in 2003, so even for half this period, you didn't even have MySpace yet as a way to market your music. For me personally, the way that I approached marketing my music during that time was I wasn't focused anymore really on selling CDs. Like if people bought the CDs at shows, fantastic, but realistically, I knew there was a very low likelihood of that at that time period. So I burnt demo CDs. The library at my alma mater at the time had a CD burner that could burn up to, I think, actually 200 CDs at a time. So I would get spindles of 100, and I would put each spindle on, get it started, make sure that it was working. You let it get through 3 or 4 of those CDs without any kind of glitch or error. Then I'd come back a few hours later to pick up those CDs when they were done. I would handwrite missionman.net in Sharpie on each one of those CDs. I would make 4.25 inch by 4.25 inch flyers so that I could get 4 flyers on an 8.5 by 11 inch page, and chop those with a paper cutter, and I would stuff those in with the CDs in a CD sleeve, those little white CD sleeves. I think the CD sleeves would cost me about 2 cents each. The flyers would cost me about 1.50 pennies each, because it's like 6 cents per black and white copy divided by 4. And then the CDs, at first, they were about $1 if you'd buy them, $5 for 5 CDs. But after a while, they came down to 50 cents per, and then pretty quickly they dropped down to about 25 cents per. So I could get a spindle of 100 for $25. And I would go and hand out 200 to 500 CDs per show. Those flyers would include the show information as well as my website, and I would hand those out for shows in Dayton, for example. I would go to UD and hand out 300 or so CDs per show, and sometimes I would hand them out and I would see the person grab it, and I'd turn around to look, and the person threw it in the trash. At that moment, I was like, well, why'd they even take it from me? I mean, I just lost out on 30 cents or whatever of that, and they were kind of insulting to me, but I don't care. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep handing out these CDs to people. I know a lot of people, it's very easy for that kind of rejection, just in your face, insulting rejection, to get you down. If you have a rejection like that, I hope you can get through it without it hurting you too much. But I would hand those CDs out, and I'd get 30 or 40 people to come out to a show, and then the other local band would bring out 10, 5, 20 sometimes. And so on average, I was probably spending $100, $150 pressing those CDs, printing up the flyers, spending gas money to go to the campus, and then of course the hours upon hours of actually doing all this work and handing it out, to then have a show where I would maybe make $100 back. So sometimes I was breaking even. Most of the time I was losing money. But most importantly, I was gaining fans. I was building momentum. And as a huge bonus, this alone would have made it worth it. Some of the people that I handed CDs out to 20 years ago, I'm still friends with now because of the connections that we've made through music. So that kind of thing, that's not really quantifiable in terms of how much that's worth. So even though technically I may have lost money, it was absolutely worth it for me because of the experiences and the connections that I've had since. So going from there to one other thing I want to talk about is the differences in barriers. So as that time period was going on, you started getting MySpace. I think Facebook came out around 2005. 2004 maybe. I've been on it since 2005. You had lower barriers to entry in terms of, in 1999, I spent $1,000 on a sound card so that I could record on my desktop. 10 years later, after that desktop died, I bought a USB audio interface for about $100, and the one I have now cost me about $40. There are better ones that, when I have a budget for it, I will go ahead and upgrade probably to the Scarlett Focusrite 2i2. It's currently on sale for $100. I just don't have the $100 to spend on it right now. But if you do have the $100 to spend on it and you want to upgrade your audio interface or get one for the first time, there is an affiliate link in the description. So I'll get a small commission if you do buy it that way. But the Scarlett Focusrite is probably what I would go with if you were looking at it the first time, and something I will upgrade to at some point because I have heard recordings on the Focusrite and it is a little bit higher quality than my Behringer. But regardless, either one is much cheaper than the M Audio Delta 1010 sound card that I bought 10 years ago and has comparable sound quality. So, there's just lower and lower barriers to entry. And so now you've got just so many songs coming out all the time, and so many different ways to market them. But the things I'm doing mostly, obviously, besides the organic YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, a little bit on Twitter and TikTok. I'm not TikTok friendly. I'm not great at it. I don't use it much. For me, it's an afterthought. For other people, they've had huge success with it. But I have spent a lot of money on ads, social media ads specifically, to market my music. Between my social media ads and my playlist pitching last year, I spent $4,500 promoting my music and generated about $1,800 in revenue. So my ROI is still negative. I think I'm getting closer to having that be positive, but I don't know when or if that's going to happen. But regardless, I'm going to keep pushing because music is very important to me. And I will briefly talk about which ones work for me and which ones don't. Bing, I got an ad credit for $25, so I spent another $25 of my own money, $50. No conversions, nobody listened to my music. I don't know. Maybe it's the nature of the search ad. Maybe it's the way Bing interacts with Spotify links, but it wouldn't work. Show.co, I spent $50, got about 5 or 6 listeners. Very ineffective for me. TikTok wouldn't even interact with Spotify in the way that made it possible for people to stream my music, but I had to run the test to see if that worked or not. So I spent probably $20 in TikTok ads and got 0 streams on Spotify because the ad would not work for me. Reddit, I had some success. I ran like a $10 ad promoting a Spotify playlist that has my music on it and other independent hip hop artists that I feel like are either similar to me or I'm fans of or have influenced me in some way. And I did that on r/Spotify because that is a community where people just share playlists anyway. And so it's a very natural, organic ad. And we also have YouTube was very successful for just gaining new fans on YouTube, gaining subscribers through promoting it on YouTube. That didn't really result in people listening on Spotify or going to other platforms, but it did work within the YouTube platform. Snapchat has probably been my most effective in terms of getting about 2 or 3 streams per dollar that I spend. Obviously, still losing money hugely with that kind of return if I'm just talking about Spotify streams. So I do also playlist pitching. Facebook, I had some success getting YouTube, watch hours because they had to be from an external standpoint if they're going to be advertised to count towards my monetization to get there. But a lot of my promotion now is playlist pitching because if it's Spotify currently that I'm most focused on, where I'm trying to grow my followers there, grow my listeners there, hoping to end up on Discover Weekly. And I watched a few videos from Andrew Southworth on, aggregate data of basically if you got about 10,000 streams in a month, you got a very high chance of being on Discover Weekly. If you got 2,500 streams in a month for a new release, you got a very high chance of getting a release radar boost, which could then get you to a Discover Weekly placement. But he goes into a lot more detail on it with that. But the playlist pitching that I've done, I've used Groover, Submithub, Daily Playlists, SoundPlate, and Spotify Indie Bible. The Spotify Indie Bible, I have an affiliate link for if you're interested in it. But it's more of an organic way. It has a list of a bunch of playlist curators and all their contact information. You kind of have to manually submit that way, whether email or something through Instagram, or it gives you a link to their Submithub or Groover pages. Actually, I don't think I've seen any Groover pages, just Submithub, because Submithub's been around for a while. Groover is much newer. They're based in France. Very similar services, but different playlist curators. On Submithub, I've submitted to like 150, maybe even 200 curators, and I've gotten 3 placements. So my acceptance rate's somewhere around 1 or 2%. On Groover, my acceptance rate's around 40%. So for me personally, I've had a lot more success pitching the playlists on Groover, and ultimately I get on average now about 10 streams per dollar that I'm spending to pitch to the playlist curators, because when you use Groover or Submithub, you're just pitching it to the playlist curator in an organized way. That money guarantees that they'll listen to it and give you feedback. It does not guarantee a placement, which is why I had the 1% on acceptance rate on Submithub and closer to 40% on Groover, because as I've kept this information organized, I know which ones are more likely to select me. For daily playlists and SoundPlate, basically, I just wouldn't use them. I've used them quite a bit, but neither one of them has ever generated any kind of return on the effort that I put into it. So I would focus on either Groovers or Submithub if you're doing playlist pitching, or possibly the Spotify Indie Bible if you're good at manually contacting these playlist curators with their information. If you have more time than money, it's a way to go. Even with that, I contacted a couple hundred that way and maybe got added to 3 or 4 playlists. So not really an efficient use, but for you, it could be much better. So again, if you're interested, you can check out that affiliate link in the description. Other than that, yeah, that's basically my entire rundown of the last 30 years of my music marketing. Hopefully, if you're a fan, this kind of let you see a little more behind the scenes of how I market my music and the experiences that I've had, and even the little anecdotes that I've thrown in there about tour life. If you're a musician looking for either advice on marketing your music yourself, or just ideas on the marketing that I've done that's worked, maybe it'll help give you ideas for yourself. Either way, thank you for watching. I hope this was worthwhile for you. I'll be doing more music business videos in the future, and including some of my own anecdotes along the way. So definitely, if you're interested in that stuff, subscribe, and if you can, go listen to my music on Spotify and all that, or watch a bunch of music videos right here on YouTube. Anyway, I hope you have an incredible day.